Apparently my mic starts it. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Clerk. So I'll call the meeting to order. So I'll begin with our land acknowledgement. Acknowledge the Halifax Regional Municipality is located in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. The municipality acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory and recognizes that we are all treaty people. So could I get an approval of the minutes from September 25th? Moved by Councillor Cuddle, second by Councillor Morris. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Done. Approval of the order of business, additions and deletions. Ms. Clerk.
There are no additions or deletions from the clerk's office.
Thank you. Could someone move the order of business? Moved by Councillor Morris, second by Councillor Cuddle. All in favor? Aye. We have an approved order of business. Thank you. Business arising out of the minutes, we have none. Any conflicts of interest to declare today? Just seeing shaking heads, we have none. Motions of reconsideration, none. Motions of rescission, none. We have no deferred. There are no tabled. Ms. Clerk, correspondence, petitions, delegations.
Correspondence has been received for item 1311 and circulated to members of the Standing Committee.
Thank you, Ms. Clerk. Does anyone have a petition today? Seeing none. So presentations, we have none, which brings us to public participation. Do we have anyone signed up, Ms. Clerk?
There's no pre-registered speakers.
Oh, okay. I was thinking someone on Zoom. Okay, so I will call 3 times. I know we have one speaker anyway. So yeah, come forward. You know the drill, name and community for the record.
Hello. Hello. My name is Matt Stickland. I'm a resident of District 2, and I have a day job that allows me to do a bunch of research about this city, and I'm quite concerned about the success of our road safety strategy. Now, if you've read the report, you might be surprised to hear me call it a success because you will note that our trend of severe and fatal collisions is going up, which is not what we intended with the road safety strategy. However, thanks to, at this point, about 7 or 8 years of research that I'm assuming anyone who cares a lot about their city and whose job requires them to be professionally competent in how it's run would have discovered the same, that a lot of our safety standards that we have for our road safety assumptions and all that are based on dated assumptions about what makes roads safe, and a lot of them are based on rural highway safety standards from like the 1920s. They've been evolved and adapted through then, but fundamentally the principle of our road safety designs, street engineering in North America is that if we give drivers more time and more space to notice and correct their mistakes, they will become safer drivers. And the good news is for like 85% of the drivers, that's true. Like they're decent or good drivers and they notice signs and they slow down, and well, no one obeys speed limits, but that's another issue. But a lot of drivers, when given the opportunity to correct their mistakes with time and space, they will. However, there are drivers like myself who are massive Richards who use that extra time and space to get what we want, which is to go where we're going faster. Now, I don't know how much you know about making mistakes, but if you're given a lot of room to make a mistake, if you use all that room to make a mistake, you're pushing the envelope of what's allowed, or what's allowed by physics, sorry, not and allowed by the road design. And if you make a mistake when you're pushing the envelope, the odds of you having a severe or fatal collision go up. What's going on in our numbers? Could it be related? Possibly. The best research that's happening right now out of Colorado indicates that, yeah, the safety standards we use that allow drivers to be responsible, most drivers will use that time and space to be responsible. Some drivers who are bad, and some drivers like myself who are just selfish, won't. And we are a statistically significant portion of the drivers. Now, when it comes to using drugs or whatever, when we talk about drug use, it's like, oh, some people can't do drugs safely. No one's allowed to do drugs. Some people aren't allowed to drive safely. Well, we better design our roads so that only 85% of them drive safely. 15%, it's fine, I'm sure. Is it? I don't think so. Our casualties are going up. Our costs are going up. Like, at what point should anyone who's watching these meetings and doing research into why these are happening, at what point should people doing that conclude that we are getting the outcomes we want? How much more information do we need? In 2023, the Active Transportation Advisory Committee, and this should be concerning for a bunch of reasons, but the Active Transportation Advisory Committee got a long presentation about safe speeds. And the chair of that committee, phenomenal person, allowed that presenter to go like crazy out of order. They had like a 50-minute presentation on the Welsh road safety strategy. And the Welsh road safety strategy initially, like our road safety strategy currently, relied on the same principle. If we give drivers time and space, they will be safer. And the Welsh were like, oh, and you want to know what? We got speed cameras too. So anyone who's breaking the law will catch. Yeah, true, 100%. You'll catch them. Will you prevent them from doing something? No. Now, if I'm driving my car and if I'm pushing the envelope and I hit a pedestrian and I'm not drunk and I'm, obeying the rules except for maybe speeding, what's the consequence of that? $300 fine? $600 fine? Now, you could argue, oh, you might kill someone. Yeah, true. Yeah, fair enough. Personally, for personal circumstances, the military has already made me do that. So what's one more? What are the consequences for me if I push the envelope and kill someone? $300, $600, a couple points. I can afford it. I can keep driving. There are a statistically significant portion of drivers on the road like me. You are allowing me to be dangerous. You are allowing me to hurt and kill other people. And we are spending $1 billion over the next decade, which we're in the middle of, to let me do that. I'm just asking really, what conclusions can I be left to draw on? What conclusions are left for me to draw based on the evidence I have? I can tell you why our severe and fatal injuries are going up. Can the people behind me? If not, why not? And if they can't, is that good enough? Should they be responsible for designing our roads to be safe? Are they succeeding in what you want them to be doing? Should you give them different directions? Do you have a clause 318 of the charter that allows you to make the roads narrower to force me to not kill anyone? You do. Please use it.
Thank you for your presentation. Would anyone else wish to present today? Yes, please come forward. And just name and community for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Anne, and I'm here today on behalf of the Halifax Cycling Coalition. Firstly, we want to note the call for outside expertise in the joint letter by David Truman, seconding Talon Ishon, Martin Williams, and Norm Collins in response to the road safety report being discussed by the committee today. The Halifax Cycling Coalition has always emphasized the importance of convenient, affordable, and reliable public transportation for all residents of Halifax. HCC has in fact embraced the IMP, which prioritizes walking, cycling, and public transit. We reject all baseless claims that there is a contradiction between bike lanes and reliable public transport. We reject the notion that somehow people who are asking for safe bike infrastructure are stalling the progress on bus rapid transit. In fact, our advocacy for better Windsor Street Exchange proves that we work with public transit advocates to build bus-only lanes, which the Regional Council refused to incorporate into Phase 1, and the future of Phase 2 is at best uncertain. We were equally dismayed when the TSC accepted a motion by staff to shelf the transit priority corridor along Spring Garden Road, effectively bankrupting the BRT, which was expected to use this corridor before it was even built. We are here to register our opposition to decisions that undermine a convenient and reliable public transit system in Halifax. We'd also like to highlight the immense synergies that exist among protected bike lanes, affordable bike share programs, and public transit, as demonstrated by the personal commuting experience of one of our members. Unfortunately, he could not be here today, so I'll share the story on his behalf. Here's the story. So a couple of weeks ago, I was waiting for the 138 bus after work. The bus picks us up around 4:10 p.m. and usually drops me off close to home around 5 p.m. However, the bus is usually delayed, this time by 25 minutes. At around 4:25, I decided to rent an e-bike to get home. I took a break on Central Drive in Fairview and headed up the hill to connect to the mainland trail. I was able to get home around 5 p.m., about 20 minutes before the delayed bus would have arrived. This was the second time I'd done this trip by rented e-bike because of a delayed bus. The first e-bike trip I took, the bus was almost 40 minutes late. I was so fed up with waiting that I decided to take the e-bike home. There were more obstructions this time with construction and the like. On the mainland trail, the pedal flew off the rental bike and smashed my foot. I had to limp to the Lacewood terminal. I reported the damaged bike before renting another one. I reached my destination around 5:35 p.m. About 2 minutes later, once I crossed the street to get home, I saw the bus come by. Now, I know some of you are thinking that I should have waited for the bus, but think about it. In spite of all the obstacles, the damaged bike, the bruised foot, I was still able to beat the bus home. I've done this trip by car as well. When we choose to leave the city at 4 p.m., it'll take us 2 hours to get home, not arriving until 6 p.m. I'm telling you this story for 3 reasons: to show you the disaster that comes from not properly funding and prioritizing transit, the potential for cycling as a way to get around and even to match the speed of transit, and the dire situation with our traffic that requires these alternative modes of transportation to be prioritized, rather than relying solely on cars. I come to you with this admittedly extreme example because this is the reality for people trying to take transit, to cycle, and to drive. The only option for me is transit right now. Those 2 bike rides cost me around $30 each. I and most no one else can afford that. We have to take transit. And without the ability to safely store my bike, I have to take transit. As I said before, this is an extreme example. The available infrastructure does not allow the opportunity for people less experienced as I am to make this or similar trips, and the only reason I could make this trip by bike was because I had the bare minimum protection for cycling along my route. So I ask this of you all: consider the opportunity for cycling while transit funding is in question, and answer the questions as to why transit is so slow that sometimes cycling can beat it by half an hour. So with this story in mind and the knowledge that his experience is all too common in Halifax, we'd like to reiterate that the decision to abandon the Spring Garden Road transit corridor is yet another serious impediment to the planned BRT. Moreover, the Minister of Municipal Affairs announced that the province may not be funding the BRT. Instead of this continued deprioritization of viable alternatives to driving, high-risk corridors such as Winter Street, Morris Street, and Bedford Highway need to be revitalized with plans for protected bike lane projects and bus priority lanes. We therefore recommend that the TSC request a staff report on whether and how these developments will affect the planned system-level performance of the BRT, the timelines to build it, and the key performance indicators like travel times that the BRT is aiming to achieve. We would like to know how rapid these buses will be and if they will ever be running. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you for your presentation. Would anyone else, there's no one on the board for questions, so would anyone else wish to present to us? Oh, Councillor Morris, just before you go, there actually is a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wonder if you could expand on your comment that the minister has said he may not fund BRT. Where does that come from?
I cannot expand on that. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right.
I send you an email.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a question that was murmured up here as well, and I think around the room. So would anyone else wish to present to us today? Would anyone else wish to speak? Third and final call. Would anyone else wish to speak? Okay. Thank you to both our speakers today. So next up, information items brought forward. We have none. We have our reports, the 2025 Road Safety Annual Report, and this is one where there's not a recommendation. The motion is to receive the report and presentation. So would someone like to put that on the floor? Councillor Morris?
I can put the motion on the floor. I move the Transportation Standing Committee receive the staff report dated October 10th, 2025 for information and receive a presentation.
Second by, I think it was Councillor Young. It was a bit of a close race there. We'll give it to Councillor Young. So now we'll have the presentation. Oh, we have to vote. So let's vote if we want the presentation. All in favor? All opposed? So that carries. So now we'll have the presentation.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sam Trask, and I'm the Supervisor of Road Safety and Transportation, and we are here today to present on the 2025 Road Safety Annual Report. So to set the stage today, I'd like to start with a reminder of why we are here to talk about road safety. In July of 2024, Regional Council approved the second guiding document for the road safety program, which is titled the Road Safety Strategy. The strategy guides our process and decision-making, including the commitment to annual reporting, but most importantly, provides a clear vision for HRM to work towards, and that is to achieve 0 fatalities and serious injuries for all road users by 2038. The strategy also adopts the principle of Vision Zero. Vision Zero is an internationally recognized road safety concept which asserts that fatalities and serious injuries on our roads are preventable, and that prevention is our shared responsibility. Our road safety team at HRM is mainly engineering focused. However, we partner with other stakeholders such as enforcement and education to bring a multidisciplinary approach to address these severe collisions and work towards our vision. To start our overview of the annual report, we'll dive into key statistics, with many more included in Attachment 1 of the report, along with our full set of KPIs. Although we are here presenting in 2025, this report includes information on 2024 collisions and previous years for comparison, so just wanted to clarify that. To summarize collisions in 2024, there were 11 fatal collisions and 142 serious injury collisions. This data are known incidents from both HRP and RCMP within the entire HRM boundary, including both municipal and provincially owned roads within the right-of-way. New this year, we are able to report on serious injury collisions compared to previous years where we have only had access to a combined all injury statistic. To connect this back to the previous slide, the reporting of fatal and serious injury collisions aligns with the Vision Zero concept and our HRM vision for road safety. The reporting of serious injury collisions was intended to start in 2024 with the adoption of the strategy. However, the data was not yet available as we had identified inconsistencies within the police reports. Since we presented the 2024 annual report, staff have been working with police partners to identify and correct these inaccurate reports. Police were able to correct data from 2022 to 2024, and this was a very manual exercises, and they were limited by their available resources. So this is a key item to keep in mind as you go through the report, is data prior to 2022 has not been corrected. So you'll see significant outliers when compared to the corrected data from 2022 to 2024. Moving forward, staff will continue to monitor collision reports, and any future discrepancies will be brought forward to police for corrections. So how do the 2024 statistics compare to previous years? This graph represents the rate of fatal and serious injury collisions per 100,000 population as a way to normalize the data with our growing municipality. The years 2022 to 2024 are included, again, as these are the only corrected years of data. As shown in the graph, the rate of fatal and serious injury collisions has increased slightly year over year from 2022, indicating an undesirable trend in opposition to our goal in HRM. Review of the fatal and serious injury data is still ongoing as we just recently received this data. However, initial review indicates there may be an increase in aggressive driving incidents over the past year. We'll continue to analyze the data for any trending factors. At a higher level, this upward trend demonstrates a need to increase organization-wide commitment to prioritizing road safety and decisions from planning, design, maintenance, enforcement, and public communications. Although we are seeing an upward trend in our rate of fatal and serious injury collisions, Halifax is within the lower range of fatal and all injury collisions when comparing to cities across Canada. These benchmark cities were selected based on public availability of collision data using a comparable definition of injury collisions and with population data available. Data from 2024 was not yet available, so there is a time lag with this graph. As an add-on, I recently attended a Transportation Association of Canada Road Safety Committee meeting, and nationwide statistics are expected to continue trending upward in 2025. Although that's not great news for road users, it showcases the challenges that are experienced not only locally but across Canada. The safety of vulnerable road users is identified as a priority area for the road safety program. Part of our work includes an annual review of all reported pedestrian and micromobility collisions. And as a note, micromobility devices include bicycles, e-bikes, electric scooters, and other lightweight vehicles. The 2024 Collision Data Review identified 179 collisions with involved pedestrians and 89 collisions with involved micromobility users. These only include collisions occurring on public roadways. An in-depth review of hotspot locations will be completed over the next few months. To further review these vulnerable road user collisions, this graph breaks down the number of fatal and serious injury collisions from 2022 to 2024. The declining trend of fatal and serious injury pedestrian collisions is encouraging, considering the emphasis that has occurred on pedestrian safety upgrades in recent years. Now, despite the overall trend concerns, certain areas of road safety showed encouraging progress. Notably, there were a reduction in fatal and serious injury pedestrian collisions, fatal and serious injury collisions at intersections on municipally owned roads, as well as a decline in pedestrian collisions at signalized intersections. While these categories represent relatively small subsets of the overall collision data, the downward trends are noteworthy. They align with recent efforts to improve intersection safety, particularly for pedestrians, through targeted interventions and infrastructure enhancements. These results suggest that focused safety initiatives may be contributing to meaningful improvements in key risk areas. So now we'll move beyond the collision stats and look at projects within our priority areas that have been completed in 2024 and the 2025 fiscal year, and those that are planned or ongoing in the current 2025-26 fiscal year. For our priority area of intersections, we completed action plans for the top 10 intersection road safety reviews. There was a new traffic signal upgrade at Oxford Street and Jubilee Road. We installed 14 new LPIs, 11 APSs, various protected turning movements, and completed conflict analysis and installed continuous safety monitoring technology at one intersection. In 2025-26, we have plans for new traffic signals at St. Margaret's Bay Road and Timberley Village Parkway, traffic signal upgrades at 2 of the 10 priority intersections, tender design work for 7 priority intersections, and complete 1 intersection with internal design group, implement protected only left turns at 5 signalized intersections, evaluate up to 15 intersection conflict analyses, and continue to install LPIs, APSs, and protected turning movements.
Sam, just to interrupt, acronyms aren't necessarily something everyone knows. Can you just
Yes.
LPIs and APSs?
Yes, LPIs, leading pedestrian intervals, and APS, accessible pedestrian signals. Thank you. For our priority area of safe speeds, in 2024-25, we did deliver 93 traffic calming projects. I will note out a typo in this slide. So 2024, actually, that number included the 30 carryover. That's not in the 25 year. In 24, we also had 2 neighborhood speed limit reductions approved by the province, and we continued with our speed display sign program. In 2025, we have 47 traffic calming projects, not including the 30 carryover, and we plan to submit 10 applications to the province for reduced speed limits and continuation of our speed display sign program. For the priority area of vulnerable road users, in 24, we installed 43 new RRFB crosswalks. That's rectangular rapid flashing beacons. I also have another typo in this. It was 2 new RA5 crosswalks. There were 10 new basic mark crosswalks, 43 stop control crosswalk markings, a right turn slip lane study, and the development of the shared micromobility pilot. In 2025, there will be 38 new crosswalk installs or upgrades, accessible pedestrian signals at 6 intersections, durable marking installations at various locations. We will be conducting a leading pedestrian interval screening process for the remaining signalized intersections. We're completing an additional 2 right turn slip lane studies, looking at conflict analysis for 2 vulnerable road user projects, and also doing a detailed review of the 2024 vulnerable road user collisions. In the Safe Schools category, in 2024, we completed 16 school zone traffic calming projects. We supported the Safe School Streets pilot projects at 2 schools and had the crossing guard program safety initiatives. In the current year, we are looking at 6 new school zone traffic calming projects. We'll be creating a Safe School Streets toolkit, developing a baseline study for active school travel, and further developing the crossing guard program. In our priority area of data management, as I already spoke to in 2024, we identified the collision files with injury severity discrepancies and worked with police to get those corrected files. We initiated updates to the road safety dashboard, and that's pending collision severity updates, and completed an opportunity assessment to procure a new collision data analysis software. So in the current year, we continue to work with police to address those injury severity data concerns. We still plan to update the road safety dashboard to reflect the new KPIs from the road safety strategy. We currently have an RFP out for this new collision data analysis system, and we'll be exploring other data sources such as health data. Another project recently completed was a public survey on the perception of road safety and HRM. This survey forms the baseline for one of our key performance indicators from the road safety strategy. The survey was facilitated by a public opinion research firm in the spring of 2025. There were 2 phases of the survey, the first with mailed postcards sent to a random sample of households, and the second, an open online survey posted to the halifax.ca website. Over 2,300 surveys were collected in total. The results between the 2 phases were very similar. However, results from the mail-out survey are included in this slide. And those include that 48% of survey respondents felt the road network is safe. Residents feel safest while riding transit, with cyclists and motorcyclists feeling the least safe. Residents are most concerned about distracted behaviors, road maintenance, speeding, and impaired driving. And there were main recommendations for better pedestrian crossings, more enforcement, and improved lighting. The full results from the survey can be found in attachment 7 of this report, and these will help inform future education, enforcement, and infrastructure priorities. And lastly, as we near the end of 2025, you may all be wondering, how are we doing this year? So looking at combined fatal and serious injury statistics only from January to August, we are trending in a similar pattern compared to last year. However, I do caution these results as more collision files are expected to be closed from previous months, and fall is typically the season for a high number of collisions to occur. Separating this into fatal collisions only does tell a different story, however. In 2025, we've seen the highest number of fatalities in many years, with over 20 lives lost. Preliminary reports suggest that nearly half of these incidents may have involved aggressive driving behaviors, which underscores the urgent need for a continued focus on road safety. The numbers we've reviewed today represent real lives and communities impacted by tragedy, reminding us why road safety must remain a top priority. While this year's increase in fatal collisions is deeply concerning, it also reinforces the importance of our efforts to improve safety measures. By working together, we can reduce these risks and create a safer future for all road users. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I imagine there will be some discussion. Councillor Cuddle.
All right, happy to kick things off here. Thank you very much for the presentation. And, you know, it's like we can't fix things if we don't measure things. And so having this report come to us annually and to know that we're tracking information and looking for areas of improvement is it is very important and you know, helps clarify the work that needs to be done. I have a few questions about the report, and one is about the stats for collisions, and I'm just wondering, does that include both municipal roads and provincial roads? It does. Okay, I see you nodding your head there. So I mean, this is where, I start to have some difficulty, because where we do have some control over what happens on municipal roads, we don't have any control of what happens on our provincial roads. And, I'm wondering, from an advocacy perspective or an intergovernmental relations perspective, what work is being done with the province to not only align standards, but align kind of our approaches to road safety. I just want to take a moment here to recognize that there was a recent loss of life of a young man, Tyler Lake, on Old Sambro Road. Tyler was Fraser Lake. Fraser was 16 years old, and his death was the result of a single vehicle accident with a motorcycle. And his family is really advocating for changes to the Motor Vehicle Act around age limits on use of motorcycles. And I think that's worth noting and highlighting here right now. Also, they're looking for changes to the Old Sambro Road, which is very much in the provincial provincial responsibility. We don't have, there's not much we can do there, but I just wanted to note that because I think it's important. So many of our roads are provincial roads outside of the urban service boundary, and it'd be good to kind of break down our statistics between HRM roads and provincial roads, and even in terms of looking at fatalities, about where direction around advocacy and intergovernmental affairs needs to be perhaps enhanced. I also want to just have a question about the vulnerable road users collisions there. You're talking about pedestrians and micromobility, and I'm wondering if that data includes incidents with micromobility and pedestrians. Would that be captured there, or is that captured separately? I'm just wondering if we're getting any complaints around conflicts between pedestrians and micromobility users, as we've introduced that in the last couple of years and expanded that program. And finally, my third question is about the active school travel study, and if there's a brief update on where we are with that work.
Good afternoon. My name is Brody McIntyre. I'm the Director of Traffic and Parking Management. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the Councillor, I'll take the first question and the last question. So the first one around kind of interaction with the province and any means or ways to communicate issues and try to advocate for change on their roads under their jurisdiction. So the province sits on, we have a member on the Road Safety Steering Committee from the province. So the Provincial Traffic Authority Manager of Traffic Engineering and Road Safety sits on our Road Safety Steering Committee. So we do interact with them quite regularly through those meetings, discussing issues we have on our roads, their roads, and so they're aware of the information, the data that we have. We also work pretty closely with them, on an ongoing basis, just because of a lot of the overlap in areas. So we do work closely with the province as much as we can, and hopefully we're providing that information as a bit of a poke and a prod, these issues on their roads. As far as the last question, and it just slipped my mind. What was your? The active school travel.
Yeah.
So that is just getting ready. The RFP is just being released to engage a consultant to do the baseline study for that.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Councillor Morris. Oh, sorry.
Through the chair to the councillor. So I'll respond to the second question there about if a collision occurred between a micromobility user and a pedestrian, would that be included in the reports? To answer that, it may or it may not. There are limits on what is, deemed a reportable collision. And so we do know that, if a very minor incident between a pedestrian and a micromobility user occurred, that may not be included in the collision reporting. So that's why we're looking at getting access to health data to help fill in that gap, because we do believe that that is an underreported scenario.
Okay, I think we're now safe to go to Councillor Morris.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And thanks very much to the whole team for the work on the annual report and on all the changes to the data going back to 2022. I'll just fire off a few questions to make the most of my time, if you don't mind. In terms of the hotspot mapping, how will that change our prioritization for infrastructure improvements going forward? In the last little while, the province has come out with new legislation that would impact us a great deal in HRM and potentially help us improve safety. Are we gearing up to get ready for photo radar? Yes, or why not? Are we gearing up to plan for the possibility of changing residential areas to 30 kilometers an hour maximum speeds? Why or why not? Thank you.
Through the chair to the councillor, so I'll answer the first question again, and Roddy will step in for the second. So wondering how our hotspot mapping will change any future infrastructure prioritization. So with our new collision analysis software that we are procuring, one of the main intents of that software is to create a high injury network for us that will enable us to figure out what our priorities should be based on corridors. And then we are also in discussions with another working group looking at developing an equity framework to place into the capital budget planning system, and then also discussing road safety as a part of that as well.
So equity is a concern because some neighborhoods have not received the same amount of infrastructure. Is that what we're saying?
Potentially, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So we're going to look at equity as a new element in prioritization.
Exactly. Another
Okay.
tool for prioritization.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Purdy.
Nope, Councillor
Oh.
Morris has still got a couple. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. So with regard to photo radar, so as everyone's aware, there's been language drafted and put into the new TSA around the ability to use photo enforcement. At this point, the legislation is obviously, it's been passed, but it hasn't been proclaimed. The province is still doing consultation with regard to the regulations. So we're working alongside as far as partners in consultation with regulations as they come through. And once the TSA is proclaimed, the other things to keep note is the TSA in and of itself isn't the only legislation that's required in order to enable the use of photo enforcement. So there's other work likely to be done. We did, as most are aware, we have done a study a little while back in order to help us identify kind of the best model to potentially implement when we have the ability to use photo enforcement. And we would continue to move forward with that once we're in a position to do so. So at this point, we're still in a holding pattern as far as photo enforcement. The question about the speed limits, the same thing would hold true with regard to we still need the TSA to be proclaimed before we can go full force with making our own adjustments to the speed limits. But as far as getting ready or keeping in mind, we are kind of already, considering what options we would have to move forward with when we have the ability to set speed limits on our own without needing to go through the province for those sorts of limits below 50 kilometers per hour.
But next year or the year after that, where we might be seeing some of this come forward from HRM's ability to plan and manage it.
Through Mr. Chair to the councillor, that would wholly depend on when the TSA gets proclaimed.
Okay. Do I have a bit more time? Yeah.
Yeah, you've got lots, actually.
Okay. All right. Great. I understand that there is, when it comes to parking enforcement and HRM controlled enforcement measures, that there's a cap on how many tickets can be issued a month. Is that correct? And what is the cap and why?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. So the cap has to do with the capacity of the provincial department to process the tickets through the what's called the e-docket. And at this point, I believe it's somewhere in the range of 2,000 tickets per e-docket, which is biweekly. So it's somewhere in and around the range of 4,000 tickets per month.
So HRM cannot issue more than 4,000 tickets a month. That's
At this point, they don't have the ability to process any more than that. We actually we pay for that processing. So if we were, and I'm not 100% certain if we have the ability to say, well, if we pay more, can we get more? But I know we do pay for the processing capacity that is currently set.
set by the province.
Correct.
So if they upgraded with IT, could we potentially issue more tickets and do more enforcement?
Through Mr. Chair to the councillor, that would I can't speak to what sort of systems or what the province may have in mind or be pursuing. So without having a knowledge of what their systems might entail, I can't really comment on that.
Okay. Does Halifax Regional Police also have a cap on the number of tickets they can issue per month? No. I'm getting a head shake.
I would have to defer to my colleagues behind me.
No cap for the police. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're now safe to go to Councillor Purdy.
Thank you. Thank you for this report yet again. A couple questions. Data for collisions. Is there any way to pull out the reason for not the reason, but the conditions of which the collisions occurred with? Like, for example, weather, impairment, distracted driving, because I feel like all collisions are not created equal, and those considerations do matter when it comes to decisions for infrastructure. Another question I had, just out of curiosity, in your jurisdictional scan that you did, in the graph it showed Ottawa decreased kind of dramatically in the past year with their collisions, and I was just wondering what the context was around that. Do we know why? What have they implemented something differently to create that downward trend? And I think that's it. Thank you.
Through the chair to the councillor. So we do have access to the different causal factors of collisions, and that's included within our data. We do go through that. It's a very manual process at this point, so we're hoping with our new collision analysis software that that'll really help more efficiently bring those factors to light. Your question about Ottawa, very fair. We've looked at them to see what are they doing that we're not doing. So we're doing a lot of the same things, actually. They're doing in-service road safety reviews like us, traffic calmings, school zone safety, reduced speed limits, protected turns, pedestrian safety upgrades. What I have noticed from their plans, it seems like they have a much larger emphasis on education, which may be a contributing factor. They do have another large emphasis on motorcycle safety, which we've seen in our collision trends, so that may be something as well we could look into. Their automated speed enforcement program, the profit from that program is reinvested back into their road safety program. I'm not sure of actual dollars, but my assumption is that may be a big influence as well.
Okay, that's interesting. I did have another question too, just on the speed display signs. Are they shown to actually influence speed? Do we have data that's collected from those speed display signs to show, are they actually effective? And on the piece on education, is that something we're going to see in the budget coming forward this next year as kind of a piece towards enhancing safety? A little sneak peek if it's available. Any plans for education?
Through Mr. Chair to the councillor, the first question about the speed display signs, we have a report on its way that exact topic. So you can stay tuned. I can sneak peek right now. The data we have isn't showing a large benefit, a large
Right.
amount of effectiveness to them.
Okay.
And the question about the education campaign, that's something we're looking to include. We have some funding that we're looking to try to get back in the saddle with education.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, staff, for the report and presentation. I haven't made my way through it all yet, so I guess one thing would be if this can go to regional council, guys. I would think that would be a good thing to do to forward it on. My first question is about when we're deciding what, Sam, you just mentioned you're doing similar things to other Canadian cities. What standards or sources of information are you looking to decide how to attack road safety?
Through the chair to the councillor. So we'll look at the Transportation Association of Canada. That's our main educational resource with technical information. But we also look to various jurisdictions around the country as well. If we see a presentation that City of Calgary maybe did with a new pilot program that they did, we'll reach out to their staff to see if we can get, any policies or processes that they may have. Because we don't need to reinvent the wheel always, but it is important that we look at our Halifax context as well for these any new measures. So yeah, really looking at these other technical resources like TAC and seeing what other jurisdictions have done across the country, I would say is our main source.
Okay, I guess thinking on there and how you mentioned that road safety is getting worse across the country. I'm curious why we're not looking to places that are succeeding in Vision Zero and looking to what they're doing. Is that not part of what we're doing, and why? Why are we not doing that?
So there have been very few jurisdictions that have actually attained Vision Zero. There is a small city in the States, Hoboken, New Jersey, that they have done that. They've got a very different context in comparison to Halifax. And then many countries in Europe, they've been doing it for decades. And, we're trying to catch up to them, I would say. Like, they're like, we're trying.
Okay, that's good to hear that that's recognized, but
Yep.
I guess I'm not seeing how we're learning from them if we're not looking to them, if we're just looking within North America. And I understand the context is different, but if we're trying to get to that level of safety, how are we going to do that if we're not looking?
It's a very challenging question. I think our culture around road safety is very different too. From my perspective, one of the biggest things is that we need to change our road safety culture here in Halifax as well. So that's not only with the engineering and infrastructure, that's with our education as well and how people perceive road safety. People still think it's okay to speed on the highway, that they go 10 kilometers per hour over the speed limit. That is not okay. We need to shift that culture as well. And that's going to take years. Looking at, I'll say, seatbelts as an example. 50 years ago, maybe that wasn't very prevalent in society. Today, I would say that that's mostly accepted, that seatbelts save lives, but we're still seeing a number of fatal collisions that are occurring where people are not wearing their seatbelts. So things take time.
Okay, thank you. I think maybe I'll come back. I've got one more minute. Let me think here. Just with respect to where these incidents are happening, I'm sorry, I haven't read the whole thing, but is that information we know or that we can see, like what types of collisions are happening where throughout the municipality, so we can better address where to focus efforts?
So we don't have any specific locations within the report that identify our hotspot areas for fatalities and serious injuries. We have done a very quick review because we just got access to this data probably about a month ago. And we are seeing that most of these serious and severe injury collisions are happening on HRM arterial roadways and provincial highways and collector roadways as well. Lost my train of thought.
Okay. I'm out of time anyways. Thanks.
No,
Sam.
I think what Sam was trying to indicate too, and what she mentioned in a previous answer. So our collision analysis software platform, once we have that as well, that will help to better visualize where the collisions are happening and the types. So that will provide a much more effective tool in identifying and even visualizing those hotspots via heat maps and whatnot.
It's all manual now. Is that it? Or?
It's
Okay,
essentially
okay.
a manual process with spreadsheets and.
Okay, gotcha. Thanks very much.
We do have all of our collisions mapped within open data as well, so you can see them visually on a map. It's just a very manual process to drill down through that.
Councillor Young.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, team, for your presentation and your report. I just have a few questions. Number one, how are you capturing the distraction data, including drivers and pedestrians, on their phones in intersections and on crosswalks? Number two, is there a breakdown of the demographics of the victims injured and killed and drivers charged, race, age, gender? Number three, are there any correlations in the frequency of collisions and new drivers, pedestrians on our roadways? And the fourth one, I'm just doing a follow-up to Councillor Purdy, is with a possible need for a new PSA campaign on the road safety. Thank you.
Through the chair to the councillor. So we do have available data within the collision reports if there were any distracted driving behaviors that were a result of the collision. So that is included within the collision reports from police.
Yeah, but is it in the roadways, in the intersections and crosswalks? Is it specific for those areas there? I see a lot of people on the phones, pedestrians and drivers, in the intersections and going across crosswalks. Is that a factor for the occurrence of an increase in the collisions?
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood your question. I don't have that information available right now, but that's something that we can get back to you with.
Okay.
As far as a breakdown of demographics, so we don't have any race information. We do have information on the age of the people involved in these collisions, so we can look at the different age groups to see if there's any trends with that.
Okay.
We don't have information on if anybody involved was a new driver, so that's not included in any of the collision data that we get.
I think that's very important.
It would be very interesting for sure. Yeah. And I think your last one was just a comment.
The last one was just a follow-up, Councilor Purdy. So you guys are looking into a new PSA campaign for road safety. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Everybody has now gone once, so would anyone mind if I just speak from here? I'm not seeing any objections. So thank you for the work and the presentation. I know from talking to all you folks in the past that everyone does care deeply. That said, we do have obviously system constraints out there that seem to be limiting, because you look at that trend line and you know, it's hard to talk about, well, what would the negative be without all our efforts? Would the trend line be even more starkly up than what it is? But it's very clearly not going in the direction we need it to. And this coming year, if I'm understanding things correctly, it's likely to increase further, right? 2025, we're at 93 already versus 95 last year. Not even everything's entered yet. So we've got, we've had previous road safety, latest road safety iterations, and we have 4 years of it's not, I don't know that we can call this a statistical blip, right? Like it is now a 4-year trend line going in the wrong direction for where we want it to be. And so I'm wondering, like on the staff side, what are the barriers that you are facing in terms of trying to actually address this, right? Like what are the barriers internally that you have? Because clearly what we're doing, despite good intentions, despite best efforts, is not working. So how are we going to make it work?
To you, Mr. Chair. So I guess one of the biggest barriers that we see is that we're experiencing is capacity. And I think that's across the board in the organization as far as trying to deliver some programs. I don't want to speak for my police partners behind me, but I believe they're feeling the same stretch as far as capacity to be able to get out and deliver certain programs. We're in the process of trying to address one of the items, and that's the technology piece, and that's trying to acquire the new collision analysis software. So that platform will, once it's in place, I believe, and my team can correct me if I'm wrong, that that will be a big help in making sure we're able to prioritize and reprioritize as the data comes in. We're already very data focused in how we're trying to move our program and implement our countermeasures, but this will kind of bring it to the next level and be a big help.
I should be timing myself, or someone should wave at me. I'll ask one more. 2 minutes. Okay, can wave at me, Councillor Cuddle. Time me, please. So with budget looming, coming around the corner, or budgetary discussions, if council wanted to put more into this to try and accelerate results, is there the actual capacity? Like, is there money part of the issue? Whether it's money for staff, money for road improvements, and are there things we can be doing quickly? Like, I mean, we did seem to have a rush with the tactical program, kind of an early phase. I've personally have noticed that, kind of our use of that has faded a bit with time. Like, are there things we can do more quickly, even if they're not the perfectly finished curb sorts of solutions? Is money helpful?
To you, Mr. Chair, money's always helpful. The money comes down to two pieces, and you hit the nail on the head for both staff and or to pay for things, right? So in order, if we had a bunch more money to pay for things, but we don't have the staff to design, deliver, and get them out. So it's kind of both sides. We need people to help get the programs, the designs done, the tenders out, manage the contracts and whatnot, and then obviously we would need funding in order to actually do those as well. Right now, there's we are having difficulties attracting staff, and we've got open competitions for multiple positions. So right now we're actually not operating at full capacity either. So.
Okay, I'm probably almost out of time here, so I will just wrap up. My frustration with where this report is right now is I see a trend line that's going in the wrong direction, but I don't have a whole lot of answers in this report as to what we should do, right, about this. So, there is some talk about maybe forwarding this to regional councils, so perhaps in between we can have some more conversations on that. Second go around, Councillor Cuddle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things that was mentioned as a potentially contributing factor is an increase in aggressive driving. And I think Samantha, I think you said something about you're seeing potentially a higher incidence of aggressive driving out there on the streets. just wondering how that, like, how's that being reported? I know from kind of the information I get from residents in my district, I'm getting a lot of calls about aggressive driving, all the way around Sambro Loop through like Purcell's Cove Road, Herring Cove Road. I know all the hot spots. The police officers in my district, they know it too because they hear from me about that. And residents, there's a stronger and stronger call from residents to address this. And some of it is like incredibly cheeky. Like I had somebody doing donuts in front of a stop sign for construction the other day that got caught on video, and I believe the police are following up on that. But the aggressive driving, you know, it kind of, it's terrifying to pedestrians and to other road users. You know, I've had an incident too with a run-in with a very aggressive driver, like passing on a double line and nearly running 4 cars off the road. So I'm just wondering, like, what are we doing about this aggressive driving issue? And like, is it enforcement? You know, we're told major collectors and arterials we can't do traffic calming on those streets. I'm just wondering what is the answer here for aggressive driving, and how are we going to tackle that? My other question was, I was just going to comment too. I was looking at the collision data on the open data set that we have on the map there, and if you click on the collision dots on that, it does have a category for youth factor or something like that. Is that an age-related stat, to just respond to, I think, the question that Councillor Young had around if we're tracking age demographics? I thought that was an age demographic statistic, but my other question is about the tickets and enforcement, and who's responsible for what, and how many tickets are being issued. So I know we have enforcement, and that part of that is parking, but does the HRM, like peace officer or traffic authority, you know, parking enforcement compliance officers, do they deal with people who might be making illegal right-hand turns on reds or things like that? Who's doing that part of the work in regards to enforcement? And you said that we have a capacity, a cap at 4,000 tickets. Would the illegal right-hand turns be part of that 4,000, or is that just parking? And how many tickets do we actually issue?
Through Mr. Chair to the councillor. So as far as addressing things like aggressive driving and speeding and whatnot, those are the sort of things that, you know, we're relying on our police partners for enforcement. We're going to try to move forward with some targeted education. And I'll let our HRP and our CMP folks speak to the number of tickets. As far as enforcing, you know, illegal left turns, right turns, any moving violations, they need to be enforced by police. Our compliance officers cannot enforce those infractions. They're strictly for my team. They're strictly parking related, or you know, a few bylaw infractions. But any moving violations for traffic tickets, that's strictly with police. And then I guess if the numbers, if police want to come up and speak to the numbers of tickets, they can. The 4,000 per month, that's strictly parking tickets. That's not associated with any of the moving violations.
And how many do we issue?
For parking tickets?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have that number with me right now. I can get it and I can send it to you.
Could I make a motion for a briefing note?
I heard a little whisper behind me. Lucas said it's actually close to the 4,000.
It's close to the 4,000.
Yeah, for parking tickets, but that doesn't impact the number of tickets police can write.
Right. I just think it might be good for us to get a briefing note on that. I mean, if the capacity, if our cap is 4,000, there were some good questions asked about.
Councillor Cuddle, if you can wrap up for a question to conclude, we could have staff answer. You're out of time.
Okay, can I put a motion on the floor for a briefing note, or for an information? I can come back.
Why don't we'll come back to you if you have a motion you want to make. Why don't we go to the next, because we have 2 more on the list, and I'll give you a third time if you want to move a motion, okay? Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Chair. Just on the fact that we have some staffing issues and trying to move forward a little quicker on our intersections, which we know are some of our higher risk areas. Is there a way to contract out some of that work? Is there a way to do pre-design? And if so, is that in the budget? And also I have some questions for Halifax Regional Police. I see they're here today. I believe we're seeing a trend towards fewer tickets over the last few years and less enforcement. So I'm just wondering if you could comment on that trend and why. Are you also having some challenges with staffing, and how big is your team on enforcement? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Greg Robertson. I'm superintendent with Halifax Regional Police in charge of support services, which includes the traffic unit and the accident reconstruction unit. And just quickly, the 2 gentlemen behind me are HRP's collision reconstructionists and the experts that attend all these serious motor vehicle accidents, including the fatalities. Through the chair to the councillor. So the question with regards to enforcement, I do happen to have some stats here. My team to the right may not have the ones from January to June, but it's not the case they're going down. In fact, it's the opposite, they're going up. So in 2024, HRP issued, to keep it apples to apples here, January to June 2024, 4,894 tickets, and this year, 2025, January to June, 5,030, so 3% increase there. And then when you look at an overall trend, I have stats, and I can certainly share this with you. Going back to 2016, HRP, for comparison, say if we go to 2024, issued a total of 11,011 tickets, and the year before, 10,000. And so on. So the numbers are there. The enforcement is happening. The strength of the team varies. HRP, like any other business unit, has staffing challenges. We're actively recruiting. We have an in-house class of 40 that started this week. So the traffic unit is a support unit. I would love to have it fully staffed at all the time. Right now we are down on average 1 to 2 to 3 bodies. So as we hire, we push staff out into these support units once the patrol units, which is the bread and butter of our agency, when they're fully staffed, then the support units get staffed. So, however, we aren't desperately down. We're only down 2 to 3 positions, and that varies. And fatalities, I've been listening to the conversations, of course. Highest to date for 2025 is the pedestrian fatalities at 4, motorcycle fatalities 3, and then 1 single vehicle accident with 2 occupants that tragically died. So total 9 fatalities for 2025.
Okay, thank you. I didn't hear how many are in the traffic unit. And
1 sergeant and 6 constables, and the strength of the unit is 9.
Okay. But it sounded like tickets were down by half from years if we went back to 2016, and our population has grown a lot since then. So to me, it seems like there is less enforcement for issuing many fewer tickets, and the population has grown.
If you go back to 2016, it's 21,000 tickets, 2024, 11,000. But for 2025, the amount of tickets issued for that 6-month span, January to June, is in fact up. So over the years, if you're comparing back to 2016, tickets are down, but so is the recruitment challenge of getting the officers hired and replacing people that are retiring or going to other agencies. So there's a variety of factors. We can throw in COVID there as well. I can tell you that the traffic unit alone, those 6 to 9 members issue almost 35 to 50% of all of the tickets that I mentioned. Okay. So they're out there proactively enforcing the Motor Vehicle Act.
So what would it take to expand?
Councillor, you're well past time.
Right. It's short of the second time. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor White.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you to the first responders that deal with all this. It must be awful, and I appreciate your work. Okay, I was thinking about, I understand within your group trying to attack the things you have control over in this realm of trying to increase road safety, improve road safety. But I'm wondering about what I feel is missing when we talk about road safety, things like the size of vehicles, and is there more advocacy or suggestions you can make in your work that would help us with other levels of government? Like, we know your engineers, F equals MA, right? Like the force of the vehicle and into the collision is affecting outcomes. So why wasn't vehicle size and weight mentioned in here? Because I think it would play a role. Or if it doesn't, let me know. The fact that communication, we've talked about this, Sam, and I'm keen to improve our communications. And that I believe the ultimate responsibility is ultimately with people driving. Why don't we put more emphasis on communicating that and in a tangible way that people can interact with it more positively? Like to see that. And then just looking to all our other priorities outside of your wheelhouse, like what are things that could help with road safety? Like when we look to improving transit, how would that affect? It'd be really nice to have some recommendations to see where we could go beyond with our other priorities that would help with road safety as well. Because to me, the more people we have driving, the more collisions we're going to have. Thanks.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. As far as items like vehicle size and weight, I don't believe we really have any means to impact that. I mean, that's in some way an industry kind of the way they're building vehicles to satisfy the demand. I can't. I'm not quite sure whether our team would have any way to really influence that. One of the things you asked about was, other priorities like improving transit and things like that. So, organization-wide, our other groups and our partners, transit and strategic transportation planning, they have their initiatives and priorities, and those include, improved transit, building out the AAA bikeway network and things like that. So those projects, those things are underway, and we support their programs and they support ours, and we try to build on each other in order to meet the goals and the priorities of the organization.
I guess communication. Can we talk about how to improve communication on improving road safety?
Through Mr. Chair to the councillor, as we noted before, with the upcoming year, we're planning on moving forward with and bringing back a better public education and communication campaign.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, looks like Lucas has some.
Sorry, Lucas Pitts, Executive Director of Public Works. I just want to point out, especially for the new councillors, that we did have a Heads Up Halifax campaign, which was specific to road safety. That was shuttered a couple years ago now. And so this staff, we reallocated, I think it was last year, to create some space for an education campaign, but it's still very limited. And any sort of widespread campaign would probably require additional funding.
Thank you.
Okay, so everybody's spoken. I see Councillor Morris on the board, and I know Councillor Cuddle was also wanting to speak. So is there an appetite to do committee of the whole where we have two members of committee that still want to speak to issues?
I had preempted a question that Roy didn't get a chance to respond to. And I'll hold my information report. I'll talk to staff for.
Okay, well, aren't you an agreeable bunch? Councillor Morris, what was the question that was missed?
I had asked about whether we could contract out some of our high-risk intersection work outside HRM or do pre-design work.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, we actually have a plan in place to start doing that within the next couple of months. We have plans to issue design RFPs for those intersections and farm them out to external consultants so that we can get the designs done and then start lining them up.
Okay, that's very good news. So you don't need more money in the budget for that? That's already in-house, or that is part of the budget process?
That's we have money now to initiate. Yeah, and we'll include more going forward. That'll be part of the work plan. Any that can't get done through the funding we have now will get included in upcoming budgets to continue that along.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
So that clears the board. There was some discussion, maybe it was you, Councillor White, about whether we wanted to forward this on to regional council. If somebody wanted to move an amendment to do that, we could, or we can just keep the discussion here. Councillor Purdy.
I'd be happy to move it as I haven't spoken more than once. I move that we bring this presentation to regional council at a future date.
Second by Councillor Cuttle. Thank you, Councillor Purdy. Any discussion on that amendment? Question has been called, so all in favor? All opposed? That carries. Okay. Thank you, staff, for your time here today. Thank you, committee. So motions, we have none. We have no in cameras. There are no added items. Does anyone have a notice of motion today? Seeing none. The date of our next meeting is a special meeting. We have 2 in November because of a lengthy agenda, November 20th and November 27th. And then we will meet again on December 8th. So it's going to be a very busy few weeks come the end of November for transportation. So we will see you all again then. I would take a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Purdy. We are adjourned. Thank you.